Hi, my name is Chris Dace. I feel like that's a good way to start this podcast. I feel like for a Dacetacular Mind, rather than hamming it up as the Dace Man as I do on the Dace Man show, yelling, "What's up, Dacetacular Nation?" or saying, "Hey, hey, hey, basement dwellers," I can, for the first time in a decade, be me. Be myself on something that I'm pushing out to the internet. And you might be wondering why. And to be honest, I don't even know. If I knew, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. In 2020, everyone literally had the worst year of their life. In February, I was making a case for it before there was even a lockdown. It was, hands down, the worst year of my life. Every month felt like I was a Japanese citizen rebuilding my house, and then Godzilla showed the hell up each month to knock it down. I suffered a heartbreak that I had never experienced in my adult life. I lost 2 grandparents, and life just was seemingly spiraling out of control. The Dace Man show went on a hiatus, and then we went into a lockdown. So socializing went on as a hiatus. An outlet that I had going out every weekend to keep my mind off of everything else that was spinning out of control was gone. Now I know it's pretty arrogant to sit there and say I had probably the worst year, because everybody had the worst year. There's no one on this planet that had a good year last year. You can't say that you did. And in a selfish way, it sucks for me, because remove the pandemic and it's still the worst year of my life. Who I was in 2019 is not who I am in 2021. And that's why I'm doing a podcast called A Dacetacular Mind, and starting it with an episode called Hi, I'm Chris Dace. Now, I don't know what the point of this podcast is going to be. I don't know if it'll just be myself talking for 20 to 30 minutes, 40, who knows. I don't have a time restraint on it. I don't know if people are going to end up joining me at some point on this call, on these podcasts. I just know that I want to talk. That there's a lot that I keep inside. There's a lot that I do that I forget. And that I want some audio record of not only just my feelings, but also my story. I've done a lot in the 32 years I've been on this planet. I've traveled all of North America for over a decade. I have wrestled in front of live audiences, not WrestleMania level, but I've performed at that level. I've acted on stages. I run a podcast. I do a charity event. Anything that I have ever tried to set my mind to, I have gone out and done. It may not have been at the top tier level that we all aspire to be, but I had the opportunity. I took it, I did it, and I am grateful for all those opportunities. And I don't know if it's because of how I'm wired or what, but I feel like I'm losing that. And by that I mean I feel like I can't remember things as solidly as I used to, and I want to tell the stories. I want to talk the stories. I want to have a good time. I want to laugh. I want to make you laugh. But to that same point, if no one's listening to this, if this just gets posted on a weekly basis and not a single soul listens, I'm okay with that. And the reason I'm okay with that is just because I need to talk. It's going to come down to the fundamental idea that I need to just talk. I'm a talker. I want to just tell stories. And I want to do it the best I can in an entertaining manner if possible, and at the same time maybe a helpful manner. I don't know if what I say on any of these type of things will be worth a damn to somebody else's experiences, but they're experiences that I experienced. So there's that. I mean, what more can you say when it comes to that type of thing? Except that if it helps somebody, fantastic. I'm glad you can either learn from my mistakes, maybe share in my successes, or even just laugh at my follies. I'm 32 years old, and I live in an era where things are just weird and new. I'm in between generations, people who don't understand computers, and kids who will never know anything but computers. And here I stand in the middle. I was there at the formation of YouTube. I didn't capitalize. I came late to the game, and that's why I'm doing podcasts and shows that are listened to a handful of people rather than the masses. And that's fine. Again, this was not a cash grab type podcast I was trying to do. It is, again, to simply just talk. Now, I got to this point because, admittedly, and you're going to hear things on these podcasts that I don't share publicly. I know I've posted things that have alluded to it or have briefly mentioned it in comments and stuff on social media, but if you don't follow me or you have me hidden, you might not know these things. If you're not really close with me, you probably don't know those things. There are people who are super close to me and don't know things because I don't understand things. And I'm hoping that this medium allows me to do that. There is just a crazy whirlwind of thoughts, processes, and just incoherencies going on in this head at all times. And this is why I'm going to do the verbal diarrhea and get it out on audio format, while trying to be entertaining and at the same time not be a dick. And I'm also going to apologize in advance. I want to keep this as PG as possible, but at the same time, by doing that, I'm not me. That's not how I talk. I drop F-bombs from left to right. I'm going to try to limit the F-bombs I drop, but I do drop them. And I apologize in advance. So let's get into this. We know that I'm just here to talk. We know that these podcasts will probably have themes. Today's episode is Hi, I'm Chris Dace. And what I'm going to do is tell you who Chris Dace is. Who was Chris Dace at 2019? What happened to Chris Dace in 2020? And who he is today. And the crazy thing is, that last bullet point, I still don't know who Chris Dace is today. So let's jump in. Here I am, 2019. I'm in a 3-year relationship, and I'm angry as hell. It was painfully obvious to anyone who knew me. I hated my job. I was not a fan of where I was in my life with the relationship at the time. Not that I did not like being in that relationship. I want to make that perfectly clear. But anyone who knows me knows I was not happy at that moment, and neither was she, to her credit. This wasn't a one-way street. These are two parties that are at fault equally. That being said, I was not me in 2019. I had evolved into a jerk, a really big jerk, like a super jerk. Jerk is probably too kind of a word to describe who I was at the time. I was nasty. I was mean. I was miserable. I'm not saying I'm happy and walking on sunshine now, but I'm just pointing out that in 2019, I was not a happy camper. So naturally, like a volcano, this was all just building. It was building to a point that was going to erupt, and it really came down to who was going to be the trigger. And it wasn't me. I was not it. I bit my tongue. I tried to power through. I tried to tell myself things would get better as I continuously made things worse. I like to think it's the same way as Godzilla. He's walking through Tokyo. Maybe he's just trying to help out. But he's got that long tail, and he just keeps knocking things over, and he just makes a bigger and bigger and bigger mess. And that's what I did as a person. And I am 100% sorry to anyone who was in that path of destruction. Friends, family, and at the time, the woman I loved. I'm sorry. I could have been better. I should have been better. I wasn't better. And what transpired because of that, to an extent, I deserved. Which is very tough for me to say, because I'm still not okay with the whole situation. So in 2019, here you are with a 30-year-old Chris Dace, 31-year-old at the time, who is he's just miserable. Super miserable. And it shows, and it's wearing him down. I was pushing almost 400 pounds. Like, holy hell was I big. I still am big. But holy hell, I was big then. And at the same time, like, health-wise, not in a good place. So as this is all building, as this is all getting to a head, my personality had shifted. I didn't want to deal with people. I used to be a people person. There are people who know me now that never knew that version of me. I was very approachable. I was very patient. All of these things I had, we'll say circa 2010, gone heading into 2020. So a decade as a whole really beat me up. But 2019 was really the culmination of all that. And it's just fascinating to me that a person can let themselves get to that point. I still don't fathom it. As I would talk, I ended up going into therapy due to all the culmination and the fallout of my actions and my incapability of handling emotion like an adult or a normal human being. And it's still something that's foreign to me. And as I was going through those therapy sessions in 2020, which were online because you couldn't go to a therapist office due to the pandemic lockdown. So I was doing these things over a webcam where anyone who knows me, my face does not convey kindness. I have a mean case of resting bitch face. My face has gotten me in trouble on several occasions, even though I'm not trying to do something that would get myself in trouble, but my face just does these things I can't control, and it never looks like I'm interested or approachable. And I'm working on that. But if I smile, it's kind of unnerving, so that's why I don't smile as much. I'm doing you all a favor. But it got to a head, and the therapist had suggested that I should start recording podcasts to kind of get my feelings out there, since I couldn't communicate them like a normal human being, and that ultimately it was my downfall by not speaking up and letting the person who was supposed to be my partner know what was on my mind. She wasn't a mind reader, and I wasn't telling her shit. And because of that, that doesn't make a great relationship. I still don't. I'm not good at it at all. I occasionally come out with things more now than I did before, but I know I'm not sharing everything 100%, and hopefully with doing this type of podcast, I'll get to that point where I am sharing things more than withholding them, because there's some doozies, that's for sure, and even so many doozies that, like, who I was with at the time doesn't even know. Probably wouldn't believe today. Doesn't have to. She doesn't owe me a damn thing. I don't owe her a damn thing. We both moved on. But ultimately, had I opened up with these things, we definitely would have had a different course of action for sure. And I see that now, and I'm facing that again because my arrogant and stubborn ass still isn't saying these things to the person who I'm with now. Who, if she's listening, sorry. But I will get there. I'm trying. And I feel like by making this thought process public and putting it out there. It'll make it easier for me to do it. I also want to put a caveat in. If you listen to this, don't tell me you listen to this. If you do, just like, hey, I listened to your show, it was great, and we'll just end it there. I feel like I've made it clear 15 minutes in that I'm not someone who's good at sharing emotions with people and sharing what I'm feeling. And now that, like, by doing so in a podcast format for the public, it makes you extremely vulnerable. And by being extremely vulnerable, you go on the defense. So if you come to me and say, hey, remember that specific thing you said there and how you felt? I want to talk about it. I'm not going to want to talk about it. And it's not personal. It's just who I am. This is an easy format because I'm talking to a microphone. I'm looking at a screen right now, specifically a Minecraft menu screen. And the computer's not going to give feedback. It's not going to judge me. It's not going to say anything. It's just... Stop. I hate technology. So that's a good blooper to throw in there because the trigger word for that was said. But I'm looking at a screen that's not going to judge me, give feedback, and ultimately put me in an awkward position where I'm going to duck and dodge your questions because that's what I will do. Anywho, I digress. The therapist said I needed to get out what I had to say. I wasn't sharing with them, which they knew. Not sure if they cared. They're still getting paid either way. But I had to get it out because what ultimately led to that explosion and that bitterness and the anger is just the bottling up probably the entire adult life of just taking things on the chin and moving along. Being able to just be like, I don't care, whatever, let's move on. Which, towards the end, and we're going to use 2019 as that turning point, I started to care. Even if I told people I didn't care. And it was not healthy. It's not healthy for relationships. It's not healthy for friendships. It's not healthy for a person to do that type of thing. And the therapist told me several times that it was not. That I had to get these feelings out and that I needed to convey them somewhere. So there are tapes from 2020 that I had done about 2019, about before, why I was so upset, that are very cringeworthy to listen to, very hard to listen to, especially me listening to myself back, because it wasn't me. Right now you're getting me, but this was like dramatic pauses. I was talking like William Shatner, who was like on a Valium and couldn't get his entire sentence out. So like, I talk relatively fast, but these were being drug out. There was weeping. Nobody likes a weeper. Does not play well on a podcast. And there was a lot of name dropping. So one thing I'm going to try to do on this podcast, just as we're feeling our way out in this first episode, I don't want to drop names. You probably know who I'm talking about if you know me, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to speak ill of anyone. I'm going to give my perspective of it, of the situations, good and bad. Clearly, we're on some thin. We're treading some water here on this topic because there are two parties. There's always two sides of a story. There's mine. There's theirs. But I'm not going to drop names. I'm not going to send out witch hunts. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to kind of tell you my experiences. So the therapist was like, you need to document this. You need to get this out there some way. And the podcast was that format. So I did these podcasts. I've listened back to them. And that's why I'm here doing it again. But not a basket case. I'm still crazy. I don't want you to ever underestimate the level of mental instability that I have. But it's better than what it was in 2020. 2020, dumb things would make me cry. You'd walk outside, see the sunflower, and I would cry. Post Malone's face would show up on TV. I would cry. And not because he's like kind of scary looking. It's just because there's certain triggers that were happening because of the previous relationship. And it still happen today. I don't openly weep, but I'm just, they're there. Things happen, songs play, situations feel like deja vu, and not seeing the face you were familiar with for 3 years, it's a gut punch. Hearing the name, gut punch. Not talking about that person, because it's a very common name, but hearing it still is a gut punch. Randomly doing things throughout the day and all of a sudden thinking of something that happened in the past 3 years, gut punch. And, gut punch after gut punch, eventually your stomach gets a little tough, and that's why I feel like it's safe to do this now. So in 2019, I am absolutely at my wit's end. And that Chris Dace, I would say more so was leaning onto that Dace Man character. And I want to make that clear. It is a character. The Dace Man is a energy-driven nutcase that will try to say the funniest thing he could think of and think nothing about people's feelings. And he definitely dominated the personality scheme when it came to 2019. And I would actually say from like 2016 to 2019. And I need to apologize to who I was with then, because that wasn't fair to her. Because I would even say these stupid things that, got a laugh, but was dumb. Like, you don't say things like that about people you care about. Especially if it bothers them. Because telling them that it's just a joke doesn't solve anything. And just keeps pushing that wedge deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's when I say that it takes two sides of the coin to cause where we got. I know it wasn't 100% my fault, but the 50% of it that was avoidable and was probably a causality to why the 50% that's her fault happened. And I am truly and sincerely sorry for that. And you have no idea, because that's not something I can ever fix. I broke it. I looked at something that was working, and I said, hey, let me stick this screwdriver in the middle of that cog and see what happens to the machine itself. And I guess I expected the machine not to break, but any logical thinking person knows that machine's going to fucking break. So that's where I was. I was leaning into what I thought was comedy. I was leaning into a character. I was leaning into a hobby. I was allowing other factors, such as my career, dictate who I was when I got home. I feel like every person in America who works at any level, really, I was going to say corporate, but any level, will ultimately make the mistake at some point in their life and bring work home. And that's what I was doing. I was bringing aggravation from that home. I was leaning into a character who, for all intents and purposes, is a dickhead. And I was pushing that on the person I loved. And didn't think there was going to be consequences. And that's me. That's on me. I fully own that. I fully and truly own that. So Chris Dace, by 2019, was gone. He was blocked. There's a lot of people who will tell you or tell me, hey, I know the real you. I know you're a good guy. It doesn't matter. I could be the greatest guy in the world, but if I choose to be a jerk, am I really that good of a guy? And the answer is no. That's a no-brainer. The answer is no. I'm not a good guy. I don't know why I sounded like Christopher Walken there, but I'm not a good guy. And it sucks, because it was all avoidable. And because of that, it train wrecked, words, Chris. It train wrecked into the worst year of my life, which was also the worst year of planet Earth's life. Or at least this generation. And I had no one to blame but myself. Again, not fully taking 100% of the blame for what transpired at the end of that relationship, because it's 50-50. It takes two to tango. If one person's dictating everything, that's not really a relationship. You should seek help. Blink twice. But that's on me. There's a lot that was on me. There's a lot that I triggered that could have been avoided. And then if we had still gotten to the same part, I probably would have been able to walk away better. I probably would have been the one walking away had we gotten to the same point and I wasn't doing what I was doing. So spiraling out of control, and the world on the brink of going out of control, now we're into 2020. So 2019, Chris Dace is a dick. He's essentially the Dace Man, who's a dick, going for the joke, taking out his anger on the people who should not have had it taken out of. And that didn't stop when 2019 ended. It rolled into 2020, because now I don't know who I am. Because what I was doing, that sure as hell didn't work. But I was doing it for so long, what do you do now? So I put everything on hold. We get to the game-a-thon, and after that, I'm pretty much tapped out. Not doing any projects. Not doing the Dace Man show. Pandemic's in full swing. And then I get the luckiest break any sap could get. Didn't deserve it. Don't deserve her. She pieced me back together because I was broken. She knows who she is. She accepted me for who I was. Or she accepted the fact that I was broken. Maybe didn't fully understand why I was broken. And chose to help me crawl. Eventually walk. And now I'm trying to start to sprint again. So if I didn't have that luck, which was literally the day after the game-a-thon, I don't know if I'm here today doing this type of podcast. I don't know if the Dace Man show would have came back. I don't know if the Dace Man show franchise would have evolved into Basement Protocol Productions. I don't know if any of that would have happened, because my mindset in March, right before the game-a-thon, was that the game-a-thon was almost canceled because I didn't want to do anything. But I pushed through. We got through the game-a-thon. I met her the Monday after. And now, I'm not saying all of a sudden it was like a switch and life was back to normal, but the current started flowing. So now, while that's happening, I'm learning to be Chris Dace again. I'm learning to put the Dace Man second, because he's still part of me. I'm learning to put work and stuff third. I'm looking at priorities, and I'm reevaluating things. And this is where it gets gray, because I lost a lot of friends, or I don't know if I lost them, because if they're truly friends, they're always there. They'll be back. Yet your paths will cross again. But I know I strained the hell out of a lot of friendships. And again, that's on me. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I was doing. How do I know how to be a friend? Now, there were a few people who stuck with me true and true, and I appreciate them and have nothing but absolute love for them. And I hope that they have seen a change in me that was for the better. And when they said things like, hey, you are a good guy, they started to see that good guy again. Not perfect, not going to be perfect, but moving back to that direction, rather than the other direction I was going that caused a lot of pain for a lot of people for no real good fucking reason. I know I said I wasn't going to try to curse as much. I apologize. But it's who I am. So, I know I strain things. There are still people today I'm not talking to that I was very close with. And I get that. I understand that. And I want to tell them I miss them. Because I do. I truly do. There isn't a single person I used to talk to that I currently don't talk to that I don't think about. I think about everyone. There's a lot moving under this helmet, and this is a big ass head, so it's probably why there's a lot moving. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss those people. There's real in my lifetime. It is hard for me to say, thank God that person's not around anymore. I don't think I can truly say that about anyone. Which makes it so much harder that there are people who aren't around anymore, and that was my doing. Or a combination of both of us. And to the point where I don't know if it's reconcilable. That's probably not a word. I feel like I messed up the word. I don't know if we can reconcile. I want to. I want to get to a point where I can. I'm not saying that all the people that I'm not currently talking to right now or have a strained relationship with right now, it's an easy fix. Nothing's easy. To quote Scrubs, nothing in this world worth having comes easy. So I don't know how this applies to you, Turkleton. But I think it needs to be noted that it's not... I don't enjoy not having you in my life. To everyone who's ever been in my life. And I think that's a good statement. I think that's a powerful statement. I think that's the right statement of what I feel. But it needs to be said. Because in 2020, I lost a lot of that. Which brings us to 2021. I've reconciled some of them. Some people whose relationship we had strained to the point of breaking, I feel that we've repaired and we're getting back to a stronger spot. I still, to the other side of that coin, I still see relationships that are supposed to be strong being tested, being strained, may not have broken yet, but it could be damn close. It's crazy. And that's why I felt that I had to do a podcast. All of this is in my mind. All of this is running 100 miles per hour. All of this. I love it and I hate it. I think it's a curse. I think people who are naturally witty or have quick responses or can think on the fly or are highly motivated, I think those people carry a burden that aren't often seen by people. It sounds arrogant. I feel like I'm that kind of person. I feel like I when motivated, I can do what I want. I kicked off this entire thing by saying that. I've had a life of experiences. Maybe not top echelon, top tier experience, like level, but anything I've ever wanted to do, I've done. In some form or fashion. I've acted. I'm a sports entertainer. I've DJ'd. I've done anything. Anything I want to do, I've done. And I feel that those type of people who are that driven, that witty or creative, or have the ability to open their mind to possibilities, have a curse because that mind is open and you can't turn it off. Which is, I would say, damn near every person I know. There's not anybody out there that I'm friends with, family with, loved, whatever the case may be, where there's just a doorknob. I feel that every person opens their mind. And once that is open, once you have that ability to think, well, what if we did this? You are cursed with, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? And that is a nightmare and a gift. And I'm trying to convey that in a podcast form so you understand that this big old ball of crazy that you're either friends with, you went to high school with, you see on Facebook, you heard of, whatever the case may be, you get a glimpse into my mindset. And maybe you laugh at it. Maybe you learn from it. Maybe you just ignore it. Whatever the case may be, it's there. It's out there. This first episode's winding down and has been completed. And I look forward to doing more. I look forward to doing a show Not as the Dace Man, but as Chris Dace. As the guy that you see before you. So for the whole topic of this episode was, who was Chris Dace? What happened to Chris Dace? And who is Chris Dace now? I told you the first two parts. I told you who I was. He was a jerk by the end of that run. No difference. There's no debate there. And if you go, oh no, you're a good guy, you're wrong. I was that guy. I know that I was a jerk. And I'm sincerely sorry to every person that had to put up with that. I'm sorry for my friends who wanted to be my friends, and I was a jerk. And I still have those tendencies. I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to work them out. But I'm sorry. Your friendship should be held higher than I did. Trying to do a better job now, but I'll tell you, in 2019, I did not. I did not at all. And the fact that any of you still talk to me today, thank you, because I don't deserve it. To anyone who's ever dated me, or is dating me, especially 2019, I'm sorry. Any girl from before then, I'm sorry. I was a jerk. I progressively became more and more of a jerk year after year after year after year. To the last one. She knows who she is. You all know who she is. I was a huge jerk. I don't think I deserved what happened. I don't. I think there was better ways to handle that. But I'm not saying that I'm absolved because of what happened. I know what I did was wrong. I know what I would say was wrong. I know I didn't put you where I held you. And that's on me. And I'm sorry. And I thank you for the 3 years. But I'm also just sorry. Point blank. I don't know how much more I can say it. I don't think words can ever fix or do justice to what I feel and the weird balance of hate, regret, sadness. It sucks. I don't know if anybody else has felt these gut punches before, and I assume you have. I'm just late to the game because I'm behind the curve on most trends. So why wouldn't dating be one of them? But I know I messed up, and I'm sorry. I'm moving on, but I'm sorry. So, to sum it all up, I told you how I got who I was. I told you what happened because of who I was. And now, going forward, this episode, the next episode, every episode after, I'm going to show you who I can be. And I think that's a good way to start this podcast. I am Chris Dace, a.k.a. the Dace Man, but more importantly, Chris Dace. And I'm letting you into this mind that I've arrogantly coined a Dacetacular Mind. And I hope you enjoy the ride. I hope I don't come off as a jerk. That's definitely not my intentions. I've used the word jerk a lot. Be very interested to go back and see how many times it was used. I appreciate you spending this time with me. I appreciate the friendships I've had. I appreciate the friendships I will have and continue to have. I also appreciate all the relationships I've been in and currently am in. I don't know if you can say will be in. I don't know if you probably shouldn't say that in conversation. And if I get kicked in the ass for that, I deserve it. But I hope the peek into this Dacetacular Mind, cheap plug for the show. Again, I said at the beginning of this, I hope I don't know what this will do. If it helps somebody because they learn from my mistakes, that is phenomenal. If you laugh at my follies, or my shortcomings, also great. Are all episodes going to be like this? No. They're not. You're going to get my opinions on certain topics. You're going to get my feelings and who I am when it comes to certain matters. And then there'll be times that I'll tell you, like, my wrestling stories or my traveling stories. I've been on the road since 2010. I wrestled from 2013 to 2016. I also had a brief stint in 2009. I've acted on stage. I've done several plays. I did commercial acting. I don't know if many of you know that. I just hope that if nobody listens to this, it's still just a record for myself, because I have a terrible memory. Like a moth or a goldfish or just a guy who walks by and goes, "Oh, that's me." I hope this is somewhat entertaining. That's all I've ever strived to be as a person. But more importantly, I hope you now know Chris Dace better. Or will know Chris Dace better. That is the end goal of this. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again. Trust me, I have way more things to talk about. A lot less depressing things to talk about. And more importantly, I just want to talk. So I'm not going to do the whole spiel that I do for the Dace Man show. I'm not going to do anything that I do for Basement Protocol. I'm just going to say thanks for stopping in. Thank you for chatting with me. Thank you for listening. And you just kind of got a glimpse into the Dacetacular Mind. We'll see you next time.